Jai Hind, welcome to Dev Talks. This is Aadi. As you can see, I have someone very special who's going to talk to us about the theatre commands post the sad and very tragic demise of our CDS, General Rawat. I have with me Lt Gen Vinod Bhatia, a former DGMO of the Indian Army, one of the most important positions in the Army operations. I've called him here to understand what would be the impact of General Rawat passing away, of course, and his legacy towards the theatre commands, and a couple of other questions that I wanted to talk to him about. Sir, before I begin, thank you so much for joining me today for this discussion, which is picking up speed slow and steady as we were just discussing.
Thank you, Adi. Thank you very much for the best talks. It's a very tragic incident which has happened, and we lost one of our most respected and regarded military leaders, Chief of Defence Staff, and it is very tragic. There's no words to express a deep shock on this. But then we have to move forward and carry his dreams and make sure they fructify in the way he would have liked to.
Absolutely, sir. And I'd just like to say this was a concept of the theatre command, the theatre command concept that General Rawat wanted to implement in pretty much lightning speed. A lot of people have mentioned that he was a man in a hurry and he wanted to achieve his task, and that is something that I read about him as his legacy right from his junior days in the Indian Army. There have been discussions in the past about benefits, drawbacks, reservations from certain forces many times, and even I have done a few videos on this particular thing. Today I'd like to analyze how this entire thing goes forward with the next CDS, when it formally gets announced, and the set of leaders within the armed forces. As I said, it was led by and kept under his leadership for a long time, the time that he served as the CDS. There was obviously a team involved in this entire process. How do you think that this process is going to go forward? Will there be a resetting of any goals or timelines or anything like that, sir?
I think let me take a couple of minutes and go back. Somehow there has been an impression that this was being done in the last 1 year or 1.5 to 2 years. I don't think that is really correct. And to say that it was being done lightning speed by General Bipin Rawat, the CDS, yes, I agree with you totally. But I will not agree that it was being done only in the last 1.5 to 2 years, because if you look back, it is based on the government group of ministers report post the Kargil Review Committee when they spoke about the integrated theatre commands. It picked up in 2016. I was a member of the Shiketka Committee, and let me also say that the Shiketka Committee was convened in Center for Joint Warfare Studies in 2016 when I was the director there. And that's the time after General Rawat moved as a vice chief. We had gone to he was Southern Army Command, went to Pune, we had spoken to him. But when he moved as a vice chief, that's the time when I found him totally involved, and he had a belief, he had a conviction that integrated theatre commands is the way forward. I'm talking about 2016 now, right? So it is not that just so happened, even as the vice chief. And with the Shiketka Committee, we spent a number of hours with him, taking his views on it, and also the views of other army commanders in that time, and the chiefs also, the 3 service chiefs, not that. But he was one man who could foresee what the shape and structures of the theatre commands should be and could be. And we kept discussing this till as late as pre-COVID days, and till I was Center of Joint Force Studies. And he had a grasp of a conviction, and he knew that if the military has to be future ready, it has to be integrated. There's no other way out. He also knew that if we were to transform our military from a military force to a military power, which we should be, in keeping with the strength of our nation, we need a right to play the Committee of Nations. We'll have to become a military power. And the things which were holding us back were basically, first was the Higher Defense Organization, the integration, which fortunately happened with the appointment of the CDS and DMA. He was also the honorary secretary of the DMA, right? So this is the integration that happened. The next two things, major things were holding us back one was the Atmanirbhar, the self-reliance in defense manufacturing. So that was his focus area, and integrated theatre commands was again not only a focus area, it was a mandate also given to him, and he was working towards it. He had his timelines, he had his ideas, And he had set in motion, like you rightly said, an organization is set in place in the headquarter integrated defense staff, appointing he reshaped the integrated defense staff, and he appointed additional director general transformation. No, there's a transformation going on actually. So he wanted an ADG transformation and to make sure with the discussions and he had tried to take everyone on board. You see, when ownership has to be with one man, ownership can't be with everyone. He got us to write papers on it, and as Center for Joint War Studies, we gave inputs, we read very detailed papers we had written on the integrated theatre command, the shapes and the structures, and we took a lot of inputs from the serving community, from the veteran community, from the academia, from the intellectuals, from the industry, from others who are in the know-how. We studied what the foreign armies do, but it had to be Indian in context, Indian in character also. So it is not that we only one of the many inputs which are given to him. And he had, I think, rightly so, he had mostly formed up the cause, basically trying to get everyone on board and getting okay with everyone. And the leadership change, I don't think is really going to impact the integrated theatre command's structures so much, because the motion has been, the base has been done. And I hope there will be definitely changes, because when leader changes, things do change. I'm not saying that not change, but I don't think the basic structures are going to change, the basic system are going to change. That will remain the same.
That is good to know, sir. The concept of theatre command, I think, would always have a certain legacy of General Rawat. What do you think will be the carry forward from that legacy? So legacy is a big word, but if we talk specifics, what do you think would be the carry forward?
The carry forward would be, he was the one who initiated it. Like I said, he had a conviction, and that conviction has to be carried forward. When the theatre commands come in place, I think we'll owe it to him as the man behind it, as the brains behind it. See, he was the one who gave a very strict timeline, and rightly so. If you do not give a timeline, it becomes an infinite project. A project without timeline is no project actually, and that is the bane of our of our armed forces. We have projects, and we have projects which are finite initially, but they continue to be infinite in time and space and cost also. And he was very sure about it, and he was bent upon ensuring that every penny enhances our combat effectiveness. We had a resource crunch. You see, it has to be budgeted. We cannot expect an unlimited budget. No military in the world has unlimited budget. We have a limited, a restricted budget. But the challenge was to optimize that budget. That was one part of it only. The second part is that we have to be future ready. The new war, the future wars, the war 2.0 is not what we have actually fought in 1971. Earlier things are going to change. It's multi-domain, multidimensional warfare we're talking about, and that is where I think he understood that from 5 years, 10 years down the line, we have to be a nation which is, whose military power is recognized by the world, and that is how we safeguard our national interests. Aim is to safeguard our national interests, provide security, so that we transform India to a secure nation, a modern nation, a prosperous nation, we carry out economic development. So he was looking far, far ahead. I will not say he was ahead of his time. He was not ahead of his time, but he grasped the nuances of the theatre commands. He also well understood the obstacles, the detractors what would come in between theatre commands, because the military's world were very rigid. We are very rigid people actually. Because we are supposed to be that way. We cannot be creative. We have to be conformist. And we have a resistance to change, which you can bring out a change in any other industry, but to bring out the changes in the military is almost difficult. I'll give you a small example. We talk to the United States as a joint force, integrated force. In the lighter vein, of course, not lighter vein, but it's what I say is a fact today. I was the co-chair of the ESG, which is the expert steering group, and I'd gone to Hawaii, and among a lot of work we are doing, I said we had an afternoon free. I said, well, let's play some golf in the afternoon. Afternoon was free. They would like to do sightseeing on golf, and I'd like to play some golf. At Fort Chapter, we were playing golf, and my four-ball, there was the major from the US Army. He said, sir, you should play golf in the naval course. They're excellent course and all. the seaside. I said, but why are you not playing there? He said, oh no, Aadi can't play in the naval force. Okay. So next day I was calling on the Becom Navy, and he said, General, I believe you're a avid golfer. I said, no, not a avid golfer, just I like to play golf. He said, you'll come and play in the naval force. Excellent. I said, but I thought you didn't allow the army to play there. He said, no, sir, that is for the US Army, not the Indian Army. So what I'm trying to say is, we should not feel, we are very apologetic as Indians, we're very apologetic of ourselves. No, it's not so. These things will continue. Let it continue. Let there be detractors. But what thing about General Rawat was, and that is where I think we should take the cue and take it forward, is he was very certain that this is going to go through and this is the shape and the structures. Right? He was not bothered about anything. He knew that his aim was there and he would achieve his aim. I'm sure the next leader, next CDS, will follow that and make sure the timelines which are laid down are adhered to. I'm more than confident about it.
That's an interesting example, sir. Even in their golf courses, they have separation of the forces. And of course, we all know that the US keeps dealing with battles between the forces as well. If you look at the history of aviation, as a matter of fact, there have been times when the US Air Force wanted something, Navy didn't, but it was forced upon them, and it's the opposite as well. There have been a lot of instances across history. So, I'd just like to continue on with the challenges, and then after that, I think I'll come across to what you mentioned about General Rawat's vision about the war tomorrow. The challenges for the forces were, as we all knew, one was the resources which were available for the theater commanders. Two were the leadership. Three were the Air Force, which has, of course, a very valid point in terms of flexibility and moving across of their assets and keeping them together under a theater commander, and not having that freedom to actually move around as the Air Force likes to do it, and which is again the case we've seen across in the world. What do you think? How do you think these challenges will be carried forward by the next leader? Because here is a man who basically understood these challenges, who knew how to tackle them, who had the leaders in his confidence, and suddenly he's gone.
I think yes, the void will be there, but I also feel the next chief of defense staff would be very capable of carrying it forward. The process has started. This process cannot and should not be stopped. Actually, it should not even be delayed once the process is started. So what I feel is because you see. The minutes, the conferences have been held, the meetings have been held, everything on board, the minutes have been there, there have been letters issued, there have been structures made, there have been papers written. So it is not that that all as that legacy, what you call, is to be carried forward, and everyone understands that. I do feel that this timelines will be there and it will come out in a way and a manner in which it has been conceived, it has been conceptualized already. It's not been conceptualized. The resistance will continue to be there, but the resistance has to, you have to overrule and take hard decisions. It is good to take everyone on board, but if everyone doesn't come on board, then certain hard decisions have to be taken, because nation has to come first. And like you rightly said, air assets, flexibility, but no one is saying the integrated theatre command is not flexible. Sure. It is not that integrated theatre commands means something cannot move from theatre A to theatre B, from theatre B to theatre C. Firstly, integrated theatre commands also implies that there will be no redeployment and relocation of forces, of assets. Right? That is very costly and not required. You're only reorbiting the forces. Okay. It is a question of reorbiting, redefining, re-rolling. So role definition changes, re-rolling is done, but it is not that you are relocating the things. There's no relocation. There's no mass relocation of your assets, right? So and when it is required, you will reallocate resources from one command, one theatre command to the other theatre command as required. It is not that the theatre will be independent of it is a different nation. No, it's a national armed forces. So you're still under command someone, and I'm sure the theatre commanders are very mature people. They have to start operating at the strategic level, and they will operate at strategic level. They will understand the national strategy, the national military strategy, and they will act accordingly. Right. So to say that there'll be no flexibility, I don't really agree out there, because that is, if you even today also, well, I was a DGMO, and one of the tasks was to reallocate the resources from one command to the other. That was a major call, depending on what the operational requirements were, what the strategic requirements were.
Hmm.
So that will continue. It is not that if it is given to one command, it becomes a permanent fixed asset of that command, and it is not, it is not etched in stone. There will be reallocation and reorbiting and rebalancing. That is a continuous affair, and that is where the CDS comes into play. Right. So I think that this is a very important thing we have to understand, and let us give it a try, let us give it a chance, and let us give it a wholehearted support. And I think we owe it to the nation, we owe it to General Rawat also.
Absolutely, sir. And I think you brought it out very rightly that there is obviously flexibility that has been shown as well. If correct me if I'm wrong, the theater towards the battleground, if I may put it that way, is towards the LOC is taken care of by another set of commander, and the battleground towards the Chinese border is taken care of by another set of commander. And forces and everything moved around during the China standoff last year. I don't think there was any sort of hitch that was put across by anyone during that time. And of course, the air assets were also moved across. I'm sure a lot of positions in the west were cleared and put across over here. So yes, I think there is a structure which is required, and it'll take some time for it to come up. So one thing I used to notice about General Rawat's talk, and this is something that I discussed with many people before, he had a huge amount of emphasis on grey zone warfare, which is of course the war of tomorrow, as we all know. Where do you think we are at this moment on that particular aspect? And since his focus was on that front, do we see ourselves coming up to be a stronger power in the grey zone?
Yes, gray zone warfare is what the security challenge includes gray zone warfare, and gray zone warfare is there to stay. It is there today. It was there yesterday, and it will be more and more there tomorrow also. So we have to. We are actually prepared for it. It's not that we're not prepared, but we have to continuously, our doctrine needs to keep changing with times. The doctrine cannot be rigid, and gray zone warfare moves at a much faster pace because it is gray zone. It is not it is not a conventional war as you think about. It's gray zone. So you got to be thinking ahead of your adversary, 10 steps ahead actually, if not 10 steps, at least 8 to 9 steps ahead. And especially in the hybrid field, gray zone warfare, and in other spheres also. And I think we are prepared. And that is one more thing, by integrated theater commands will have an edge, because if it's a gray zone warfare, let's take a gray zone warfare in a particular sphere. Let's take cyberspace, right? Gray zone warfare, cyberspace. Let's take an IW space. So that is where I think we'll have a theater approach and a national approach. The same thing cannot apply to a Western adversary and another adversary. They're different adversaries. Let's face facts. Their methodologies are different. The aim may be same. The intent may be same to enforce their will on us and to degrade us and all that. But the fact is that they're different adversaries. Their methodology is different. Their forces are different. So we cannot have one size that fits all. So that is where I think integrated theater commands would be better suited to even meet and mitigate the threats of gray zone warfare.
Interesting, sir. So CI ops, I mean, it is one of the most important things that the Indian Army fights all around the year, if I may, say that. Today we've seen a different style of operations which is happening in Kashmir. Of course, a lot of people, including myself, would agree to the fact that it was blown up out of proportion. Fair enough, totally different discussion. But there is some action over there. Plus, we also see the incident in the northeast, which is also partly grey zone, partly CI sort of a thing. A lot of people say that it was planned. There's a whole lot of talks about in that entire thing. So that just brings me to a factor that counterinsurgency is something that is going to go forward pretty hardcore, with a frustrated Pakistan sitting on our west and the Chinese trying to grow up their influence within the east. How do you think the theater commands would be prepared for something like that? Because currently our main CI force is focused towards Kashmir.
You're right, Adi, but I don't think it's the Indian Army which is solely responsible for CI ops and solely. It's a major contributor, definitely, but we have the three services. It's the armed forces, Indian armed forces. We have equal assets of the Air Force deployed there, and they provide us fantastic support in terms of even your air support, your transport support, which is very essential, and your UAVs, which are with the Air Force, and the signal intelligence. So I think we already have an integrated, we have a AOC out there in J&K. So things are in place. We also have the Marcos deployed. We recently had like XI with the Marcos demonstrated their skills. So it is not that we are not there, but then that's where integrated theaters would mean in CI ops also would be more effective, more efficient also. It's not only more effective, more efficient also. And we, in any case, in CI ops, we have to take it's a whole of a union approach. We have a UHQ, the headquarters, which is there, which comprises of the all the ministries, also the civil government, also the police, the other security forces, the CAPA. So the integrated approach is already there in CI ops, and this needs to reinforce. I don't think the integrated theaters are going to impact the CI ops adversely, as some people have been saying. I think it is not correct. We already have a very effective CI grid in Kashmir, in the northeast also. And what you rightly said, graves on warfare, recent incidents, a small incident which happened, which can happen, but it's not that. I don't say that it is right. No, it can happen in CI ops. We all been through such similar situations. I have been through similar situations. Maybe I was a little luckier. We didn't, it didn't blow up to that extent, but it did blow up. But let me also assure you, it's very easy to talk about all these things. But we have an integrated approach. We have 16 states also, which are border states. It's not only Jammu and Kashmir. 16 states or 29 are border states, and we have to integrate everyone to make sure that we as a nation are secure. Security is not only, and today the concept of security is changing. Earlier, when we were talking national security, it was basically provided by the military. Today, we are talking comprehensive national security. We also talk about non-traditional security challenges. So, if we cannot be, we can't have structure which is 50 years old trying to fight the war which is 50 years hence. So the integrated theaters are really required, and that is where I think General Rawat and the leadership of the three services, the armed forces, the political leadership, the security leadership of the country had recognized this, and they had set into motion something. And the mandate given to the chief of the defense staff was 3 years, and I think that's a very good mandate, and that mandate should not change. Irrespective of that, I think it should be reinforced. The next chief of defense staff has a very clear-cut mandate. Well, his mandate, nothing changes. Very tragic that General Rawat is, but the fact remains that mandate still remains of 3 years, and it is now incumbent on our part to make sure that dream comes true.
Absolutely, I think that will be one of actually another star on his shoulder. So if we're able to actually do this, I'm sure wherever he is, he's going to look down and be happy. So, the structures of the integrated theatre commands is something that a lot of people have not been able to understand. How will it function? What will be the leadership like? And I'd like you to throw a little light on this particular subject, sir.
I think, we have a top-bottom approach and a bottom-up approach. Right? It can't be just the top-down approach. But the top-down approaches are must change the structures. And I do feel, and the present system, where the operational preparedness part is with the chief of defense staff, the defense preparedness part, and the operational readiness and the operational planning is with the three service chiefs. When the integrated theatre commands come about, I think this role reversal will have to take place, where the chief of defense staff is then thereafter now responsible for the operational readiness, right, and the operational planning, and defense preparedness comes to the service chiefs, right? And I also feel that integrated theatre commands should be headed by 4-star. We have to have that. We have to look ahead. We have to have, we should not look at that the army or the armed forces trying to increase something. No, it's not. That's the requirement. You have a 4-star heading the theatre command, and then you have 3 component commanders. Each of the commands, component commanders are the 3-star generals equivalent to let's say army commanders. Right? I don't see why if someone with 10 battalions NDRF can equate himself to army commander. Why can't the army commanders be army commanders and component commanders be army equivalent to CNC, that is commander in chiefs with the Air Force Navy. So each theater should have three component commanders from the three services. Right. And that is how the single point of advice is given to that strategic level, is given to the theater commanders, who does the operational planning, who does the synergizing between the intelligence planning, everything, and he is then responsible for war prevention, war waging, war fighting. There's a difference between the three: war waging, war fighting. War fighting are different. War prevention is different. We are looking at war prevention basically. We're looking for a peace and security. Right. So we have to understand that, and that is how that all the contribution takes place, and that one synergy is there. And if tomorrow if one theater is dormant, right, it is not the other theater will that theater will keep sitting with all the assets. That theater will shed off some of its assets to the other theater.
Mm.
Okay, and I'm talking later. It can be any theater for that matter. And that is how the whole thing was conceptualized, and that is how it's being conceptualized. But this needs more discussion, and the discussions take place in the South. It's not taking place. It's going in a breakneck speed. And I do feel that this is the way forward. The integrated theatre, I have no doubts, but at the cost of repetition, I'm saying so. We should not push it back.
Absolutely, sir. And just coming to the close of this discussion, before I request you to speak a little bit about General Rawat himself, although a lot has been spoken, but I think with in a very different aspect, I'd like you to bring about what his contributions were. But before that, sir, what would be the challenges that the new CDS, when he sits on the chair, he would be obviously a sitting chief or somebody from his retirement. It's something which is open to discussion, and I don't want to speculate on it unless it actually comes out in writing from the defense ministry. What would be the challenge that this gentleman, this officer, is going to face in restarting the entire process? Because there's going to be a huge amount of backlog, huge amount of work that was half done, and this and that. So what do you see would be the challenges?
No, I having known the system, I think the baton passes on. It is a baton which is passed on. I see within within no time the next first among equals, the chief of defense staff. Well, maybe it's a competency and activity. I would not like to do it, but then experience the chiefs are there. They will part of it. It's not that it is isolated discussions taking place. It's not watertight compartments. They have been part of each and every discussion and decision thereafter. Right. The baton just passes on, and it's like a relay race. He takes the baton and starts running full speed ahead. He sees a finish point, right? And if he doesn't see a finish point, he passes the baton to the next man. So I don't visualize any slowing down of the process. I don't visualize slowing down the process. I only realize that this will be a catalyst, and it should be a catalyst, right? And we got to take the process forward faster. And
true.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We've got to take it faster and make sure that timelines are met. It is not, we don't delay the thing, because once a delay takes place in any of these projects, they become infinite. Discussions. No, you have discussions and then your decisions. And once you have decisions, implement the decisions. Go back to the iterations, definitely. Once you take a decision, you see the cause and effect, do a cause and effect analysis, and go back to the decision again if need be. But don't retard the decision making process. The decision making process continues, and you implement the decisions. I think the change of pattern will not retard the process. It will only be a catalyst and accelerate the process. That's my gut feeling, and that's my hope.
Absolutely, yes. I do hope that the next person has learned something from General Rawat in terms of being very focused towards
there's a lot of, let me stick my neck out. I'm a soldier, I fire straight. I'm a paratrooper, I jump straight. Okay, there's a lot of talk that should rotational. I think we're losing the very essence of jointmanship if it is rotation. No, this pro rata, this rotation, it doesn't make sense to me. You have the best man for the right man for the right job. Why should it rotation? Why should anything rotation for that matter? If tomorrow three Air Force officers in line were fitted up, let them be the next three CDSs or the naval CDSs or the army CDSs. We're talking about your defense staff. We should not look at parochial things. I belong to the army, fine, but I was serving joint environments almost half my life. I'm a paratrooper with the Air Force. I've been serving the Air Force, and rightly so. And and we got to learn from there. So much to learn from everyone. And I do feel that the next selection should be based on seniority, on merit, on experience, right? And it should not be based on a rotational thing, because the moment you go rotational, you have lost the battle. I think it is rotational. It'll not be the right thing to do. It has to be, and we are a hierarchical organization. It has to be seniority based. It has to be based on merit. It has to be based on experience. So let's see what the thing is, and go ahead. Who has contributed the maximum, and the baton passes on. The baton is very important. Baton passes on. There can be no release.
Also, as a matter of fact, I agree with you with this rotation business, because that is just trying to appease, and that appeasement doesn't lead us anywhere. It's something which goes beyond understanding when we are trying to do something other than the defense of the nation. Point taken. And I think when you put it like that, I don't think there's going to be anybody in disagreement of this particular thing. Sir, General Rawat himself, I mean, you've served with him. We've heard a lot in the past few days in terms of his life in the armed forces, his legacy that he left behind. Why don't you tell me an incident that you had shared with him, and a story just to end this interview, and in remembrance of the time that General spent of his actually large part of his life within the armed forces in defense of this great nation of ours.
It's a very difficult one. It'll take a very, very long time if I start, but let me just say a few words, because anything more, he would not like it. He never liked public praise. He never liked it. He shunned public praise, and he was one man who was not too concerned about public opinion. Also, let me tell you that he was totally focused on a mission. The mission meant everything to him. And I have seen him, and there have been a number of places where he has said he used shoot from the he shoots straight, absolutely. I remember in one of the St. George seminars he said something which I did not grasp the thing, because what he said was absolutely right. But the media was there, and he said, "Sir, हमको मसाला मिल गया, अभी तो कल काफी सामान मिल गया." So my point is that he would say what he had to say, and that's how a soldier should be. He was a great leader, and I will not try to say that I did this with him or he said that to me. That is incorrect. It is General Rawat and General Rawat to say that I did this to him or said this. But he was very sharp. He would note down things. He would grasp things. You don't have to say more than a few words. He would understand what you meant, what you said, whether it had to be carried forward or not. I've seen a number of occasions. He would just make a very quick mental note of it. He never carried a notebook. He would make a mental note of it, and he would implement it. And you would find no time he would implement it. He would just drive it through, force it through. He would just bash on regardless when he was convinced that this is the right thing to do. And that is how Fauji should be. I don't have to keep, pondering over, wondering over, keep analyzing things. I don't need too many decision data points to take decisions. I have my training. And let me also say, he is the longest serving soldier of the Indian Armed Forces, 43 years. Right. The chiefs retired at 41, 41 and a half, 42 at best.
42.
The no one 42. So 43 years, a long, long time, and we owe it to him. We salute him for his contributions, many contributions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely, sir. And I think, when you look back in hindsight, I would also go as far as saying something that he would actually make certain statements around to see what the feedback would be, and then analyze that feedback. And because a lot of leaders do that, they just leave a rocket somewhere and see where all it bounces around, what kind of stuff comes out of it. They'll take that, analyze it, because they're looking for feedback from the market, feedback from people who know about the subject. So you never know. And a person who was as smart and as focused as this thing would not make loose comments. So I think he was very purposeful in whatever he was doing, and he was trying to get a hand of a lot of feedback from the market as well with regards when, of course, the media always plays up certain incidents and stuff like that, but internally we know what the meaning was and what the person meant when he said certain things. And that's part of the game, I guess. It's not something that we need to dwell upon.
He was very decisive. He could take a decision straight away.
Yeah.
And he could implement the decision. It's not that take a decision and give a decision and then he would make sure it's implemented. And that is the beauty of the whole thing. That's what leadership is all about. Leadership is all about carrying the team, taking the decision, looking at the larger picture. He was a nationalist. He would look at he won't look at the army as army and the navy as navy. He was taking a complete national picture. He would take everyone on board.
True, sir. I mean, and what a way to go for a chief of defense staff who's trying to integrate, flying an ex-army officer, today a chief of defense staff of all the three services, flying in an Air Force helicopter, going to address a joint tri-service college. So that's something that is going to be in his legacy. And that's something that actually touched me right at the very beginning. That look at this man, he was trying to drive this right through and he perished in a combined sort of a way going to address a tri-services college. And that's something, that's how life is. Destiny, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for taking us through the journey of theatre commands. And that's something which is, I'm sure, is going to start getting heated up with the announcement of the next CDS. There's going to be a lot of stipulations and contemplations. But I think you said it very clearly that the Indian Army, Air Force, and the Navy are soldiers at the end of it. They have their purpose, they have their targets, they have their objectives. And I think, push come to shove, they will put their heads together, come up with a way to get this thing done, because at the end of it, like you said, it is better and best for our country. And that is I think going to be the it, because the armed forces has given us a very, very clear legacy of being there for the country whenever it needs it, and having the changes done overnight in lightning speed whenever it requires it to be done. And I'm sure it will be done going forward as well. I'd like to thank you for taking this time out and taking us through the story of General Rawat, and of course the theaterization that he was leading from the front. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Aadi. Thank you very much, and Jai Hind to you and to your viewers.
Jai Hind, sir. See you next time.